To me, it was delightful. Honest to goodness village. There were brick walks that the Village Improvement Society built. Then they had oil lamps on the streets. Nearly everybody in town had half to 1 acre of ground. It was just a delightful atmosphere. I still can't get over it. I still say, I'm going to the village. Everyone in Falls Church used to have a front porch. I would love to just sit on my front porch watching the world go by, or just being still.
I'm here with Barbara and Jim Kraszewski, and at their house with a porch. The subject of our series of programs here has been porches, and we like to focus on that. But it's a very interesting house and with quite a history. In fact, this is its second location. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, it was moved over here, and the porch is almost in the original condition, but it's changed a little bit, and we have some pictures we could show you how much it has changed. But it's nice to have a porch on the house.
Yeah. Well, had it been yesterday, I might have caught you lounging on the porch. It was a beautiful day. It's a little bit cold for that today, so maybe we won't sit up there today. But how do you typically use it, and how much time do you spend out there?
When we first moved into the house, basically our back porch or our backyard wasn't landscaped. We had nowhere to sit, so we'd always come out and have breakfast on the weekends and read the paper. And just lounge around. And it's very private, because when all the trees have their leaves, we can sit on the porch, no one can see us, and we can watch all the people go by from a bike path and just enjoy being out in the nature in our little woods. So we enjoyed just...
I remember one morning offering the postman some breakfast. He almost took it.
Yeah.
So it's a great place to relax on the weekend.
I would think. How old is the house?
It was built in 2 sections, actually. The house, the older part of the house is over here, and it was built in around 1870, right after the Civil War. And the window panes are 6/6, so you know the glass could not be built in or made in large sheets. The newer part of the house, the dining room, the living room, is probably 10 years after that, and very large sheets of glass. So that's one way, is to look at the windows to tell the age of the house and how it was built.
And originally it was down the street and around the corner on the Jennings property.
That's right.
And you were telling me that you actually knew of the house before it was moved, and
Yes.
and had
It was
visited it.
actually a nursery and an antique shop, and then it was moved in May, I think, of '83. And we remember it being moved. We've only been in the house around 7-8 years. And I came here and bought antiques when it was moved here, and actually actually have one of the tables that I bought in the house when it was an antique shop.
So one of the functions of this porch probably was as a showroom of sorts.
Yes, yes.
Could be, yeah.
Yes.
And what are your hopes for the future? You talked a little bit about maybe restoring it. We've got some pictures of it. That,
yes. Basically, the house, when it was, I guess it was in the 60s, the aluminum was put on, the pillars were removed, and it was really stripped of all the gingerbread and all the beautiful pieces that were there when it was a Victorian farmhouse. And we've started putting some of the gingerbread back. We'd like to get all the aluminum off one day and really redo the porch back to the original if we can. We've been working inside the house to kind of get it decorated, and we've worked in the garden. So the next step will be the porch.
Yeah, and you may find that when you start pulling off this aluminum that it's actually did you some good by protecting what's there.
Yes, I have looked under some of it, and it did protect it.
Yeah, a lot of times they just put it on because that was the thing to do at that time, rather than
it was cheaper than painting.
To save painting and so forth, but some of the wood under there is quite good, and I can restore it, and other places I'll replace it. But it's a shame not to use such good wood because it has very fine grains, and it was milled quite a few years ago, and is much better than some of the modern woods.
I think a lot of the trees on the property were probably cut down and used to build the house. That's what we figured, because it's big planks like German planking that's underneath the aluminum. So it's been around a while.
Yeah, yeah, and it's nice that it found such a concerned
Well, our neighbor,
couple.
Colonel Pence, was
Help
really
restore it.
instrumental in getting the house moved. The house was going to be torn down for a parking lot, what else? And he really put forth a plan to have it moved here, and I think he paid $1 for the house and about $60,000 to move it. So I remember when it was moved, all the lines were taken down, the phone lines, the electric lines, and we have a video of it being moved. So it's very slowly moved through the whole process. Nothing happened to it. So it worked well. There was even the story of a bird had a bird's nest in the house up in the attic, and the mother bird was feeding the birds as the house was being moved. She was flying in and out of the house as the house was being moved.
In fact, some of them still come to live every spring on that porch up above the window.
Yeah, we have to fight the birds off. They get on the porch and want to make nests,
They've been
which
here longer than we have.
Right, yeah, they have
we feel it's their
rights in
home
that
too.
respect. Now it seems that I don't know if you have any older pictures that maybe the needs of the household kind of expanded the house out into the porch. Do you think
Exactly.
that was the case, or?
Well, I think the extension there that you see is the second part of the house. The original house was 4 rooms, and it was more like a rectangular box. And I think they added on, and for some reason, they added this little jutted area out, and we don't know why, but it adds to the dining room. I guess they wanted that bay window.
You have to remember, before electricity, you needed plenty of windows.
Right.
So all those windows that jut out to put
Light.
air and ambiance into the dining room.
Right.
And then the porch is just strung along the edge to fit in.
Yeah.
Right.
So it makes sense.
It's particular to the house and gives it some individuality.
unique.
It's
Sure.
typical country farmhouse design.
Yeah.
It's very
exactly.
typical. Most of them you look at look just like this.
Yeah. Well, one of the nice aspects of my doing this little series is that I also get to see some of these houses, the inside that I've been driving by for years,
Nice.
Yeah.
and
And you'll
so
have
really
to
like
come
that.
and sit here in the summertime with us sometime.
We'll give you some lemonade.
Okay. Well, and I guess the original portion of the house had this porch. That would have been the entrance.
There was actually a
That was
little.
ground level at
Yeah.
that time. You see, there's a new foundation.
Yeah, I saw
Much
the old
higher.
pictures that have the house sits much higher, both
Right,
in its
right.
relationship to the street as well as its
Right.
relationship to the immediate yard. So
Right.
it sits up higher than it would have.
Much higher.
But it's really nice and
It's hard to
comfortable.
tell
It's a
that
nice-
it hasn't been here its whole life, I think. It just kind of fits into this environment.
Yeah, it feels
Oh,
like home here.
Because with this land in front, it kind of mimics where it used to be. It had a large piece of land in front, so it keeps us away from the main street, just like it did when it was out on Route 29. It's kind of nice.
Well,
Well, we enjoy it.
bet
And I'm
you do.
glad you came by to see it. And
yeah.
I
It's
hope
a fun-
other
it's
people
a
will
fun
enjoy
place.
it when they go by.
I think the sad thing about porches today is that they aren't used more frequently, and our culture doesn't promote it because everybody's so busy.
Right.
And I think that's the sad part, is there's too many empty front porches that aren't being used.
Well, when
Yeah.
they're this inviting, I think it kind of makes you because
Hopefully.
this is
Yeah.
looks like a really comfortable place to be, and
Yeah.
Barbara's good at plant work and decorating, and it's just wonderful up there most of the time of the year.
yeah. Would I have caught you there yesterday? Were you all around?
We were out in the backyard working,
Okay.
clearing up our back garden. Yeah.
Okay.
So we were outside.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Anyway,
thanks for letting me come by, and as I said, it's really nice to meet you folks and to see these houses that I've been driving by and noticing for years, and
Good.
it's
A
that's
lot
glad
of
you
people
joined
say
us.
that, and I'm glad you stopped by.
okay.
Thanks for talking to us
Okay.
about
Thanks a lot.
good to meet you,
Nice to
Mark.
meet you. Bye bye.
Nearly every street in Falls Church was arched over with trees. You walked under a bower. That's what made Falls Church so attractive.
Well, I'm here today at Van Buren Street, near East Columbia and East Falls Church, here with Barbara Cram of Greenscape. And we're here next to a specimen tree, not only a specimen tree, but the state champion tree of its species. What is it?
This tree is a European beech, also can be called copper or purple beech, and it is signified by a very broad branch structure. It's practically as wide as it is tall, very low branched, has simple serrated leaves, and zillions of leaves. I mean, uncountable numbers of leaves, with a very special and unique trunk.
This is one of the most beautiful trees I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's my favorite that I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of trees, but this is my favorite. I drive this way to take my friends to the metro just so I can see this tree.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me what you like best about it.
I like the branching structure. I love the tracery of the way the branches are just very symmetrical. It's like an etching.
Yeah, it's like you don't see trees like this.
Mm-hmm.
This is like
very unique.
one of your perfect trees that
Yes.
you don't actually see in real life.
And it's a wonderful setting. It's on its own. It's in a foreground situation in front of the house, and it's just beautifully kept and obviously very happy. It doesn't look like it's under any stress at all.
In one of the other shows we saw a sycamore which looked completely wild. This looks very cultivated.
Mm-hmm. I think that's its nature. It has the branching is very lateral, but symmetrical as it goes up, and I think it's attractive because it is dense. It looks like a huge shrub that's been expanded or enlarged, on a computer screen.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of a huge shrub.
Yeah. Well, it has that sort of.
It's about a 4-story
appearance.
shrub.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great with wild colors.
Yeah. Beautiful coloring too.
Well, the-
It's just begun to turn on the tips. See
Oh,
a
yeah.
lovely
Right.
orange copper color.
And we're filming this in November to give a context because this may
yes.
be showing in March
Yes.
or February.
Yes.
The bark is so interesting. The bark and the formations of the bark. I don't think I've ever seen a trunk like that before.
The nodules, as we get closer, we'll be able to see the wrinkles in between the limbs, and it's just really unique looking, like its skin.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like a beach, oddly
Yeah,
enough.
exactly.
Right, because one of our other shows we look at the American beech, and but this looks like such a different tree than the American beech.
And of course, the bark, as if you come by here in the winter after snow, it just glistens because the gray has got a lot of silver in it, and it is beautiful. All year round, this tree is just gorgeous. I watch it all year round, so.
Well, the owners of this tree, this is on private property, the owners of this tree have really taken great care of it, and not just caring for themselves, but protecting it against the slings and arrows of outrageous development, around them.
Yes.
Everything from the utility lines to undergrounding to the roads, they have had to fiercely protect this tree. And even with all that protection, it's amazing it's this healthy because the road goes so close to it.
Yes, it does.
And it's a testament to that particular, not the species as much as that particular tree, how strong it is.
Right. 8 feet from its main trunk is asphalt, and lots of it.
And most beech trees don't like that.
No, they don't like being disturbed at all.
This reminds me of the person who smokes and lives to 104.
Yes.
I mean, this is not the norm.
Yes.
You can't do this normally to a European beech and expect it to be this gorgeous. But this is the state champion. You will not find a better European beech in the state of Virginia than this tree.
And aren't we lucky?
We are lucky.
We certainly
We
are, and I wish everybody would come by and look at this tree, drive slowly. It is stunning.
Now, we don't have any baby European beeches that I know that we can go to in Falls Church. So
No.
if you want to see a European beech, this is it for now.
Uncle George used to take me down to Mankin's Notions and Dry Goods, a corner store at Broad in Washington, where the office building is now. She always had candy, which was something we couldn't have at home. It was a great treat for me to go to Mrs. Mankin's store and have those marvelous penny candies. Uncle George used to carry me down to the store and get them for me. Mother didn't approve, but he did it just the same. I enjoyed it.
Today we're at one of the premier, if not the premier spot, gathering spot in Falls Church, and that's Anthony's Restaurant. So let's go in and find Anthony. Here's a good picture of Anthony.
Sorry? No. We buy from the Chicago bakery. But it's very nice, very fresh.
Hello, Anthony. Well, we've got Faye that's much better looking than Anthony. So
Thank you.
just makes the place look so much more beautiful. Now, how long has the store been open here?
28 years.
28
Yay.
years. Wow. What's the most popular dish that's ordered here?
Oh, gyro, steak and cheese, pizza, baked spaghettis.
What's your favorite?
My favorite, souvlaki. Mr. Angelo, Mr. Nick.
How long have you guys been working for at Anthony's?
I for 19 years.
19 years?
Yes. And I'm working 10.
10?
Yes.
10
Yeah.
years.
What's the best food here?
Well, everything, but pasticcio, moussaka, souvlaki, chicken, grilled chicken salad, you know.
And the best baklava in the town.
Now, I'll tell you what, they've
Cup of
got,
coffee, baklava,
you got beer.
beer.
It's all good. I've never gotten bad food and service here. I've been here every day that I've worked. When I get off work, I stop here every day. And usually half of my days off, I come in and have lunch.
All right, so what do we have here? I know what this
Gyro
is.
clara,
I
and this
like
is
that.
stuffed grape leaves. We make here.
All right, now what's in there here? What kind of
You know,
meat is
it's
that?
lemon beef. Lemon beef.
It's on that. Is it on
Yes,
that shape and?
Yeah.
You like it?
Yes.
Well, let me see you eat some. You gotta prove it. Come on. You're gonna have a bite.
You can have by yourself.
I'll
Yes,
have a
yes.
piece. You have a piece.
I just had lunch.
Took too big of a bite. You gonna have some now?
Okay. I'm going to help you.
Now who cooked this?
Mr. Angelo.
How do you like it?
Excellent.
Excellent.
Great.
You see?
I'm keeping my own. Hey.
George, what do you think?
I think it's all good donkey.
Exactly.
That's good.
One of your favorite?
Try. Yes, it is. It is. It is.
Excellent.
I told you.
Maria, the beautiful waitress. Number one in First George. Yes. See that? Right, Maria? Look.
You still eating with me, or did you stop?
Okay, I'm gonna have dolmado.
Take a little the cook, the chef, because she screamed to me. Here we go.
I have this cream.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my job.
He's the number one cook for Rafa's place. That's right. Yes. And he has the birthday today. He has the birthday, 63 years old. 35 years cook. First class. Italian restaurant, Greek restaurant, and what? International. Yes. There we go.
For the chamber functions in the morning, both of you are here.
Yes.
We're getting that theme throughout that this is really not just a gathering spot, but almost home. This is wonderful. And you open every day?
Every day, 7 days a week.
And then on Sundays
Saturday
you have.
and Sunday we have breakfast. Tony, he comes 8 o'clock here. You know, I come late, but he come early to breakfast. He can see the customers from Falls Church because he missed that too. You know.
Oh, that looks promising. Look how big that is. That is amazing. Wow. The cameras aren't supposed to be on for this. This is, you know,
Not sure.
I don't want my wife to see this.
We're not going to tell to her.
You gotta, this is big. You gotta share this.
I clutch for you. I help you with the hero. That's all yours. Okay? Not going to tell you why.
You all have to come to Anthony's.
Yes.
I loved going to the village. Everybody knew everybody. I would say, "Hello, Mrs. Brown," or "Hello, Mr. Hawkshurst," and they would all know me and my kin.
Well, there sure are a lot of familiar faces in Falls Church, and I'm here at the eastern entrance of the W&OD Bike Trail in Falls Church, by Little Falls Street and the 4-mile run with one of our most familiar faces, the grandfather, the father, the godfather, the chairman of the board of the W&OD Bike Trail, Mr. Walter Mess. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. Tell me, Mr. Mess, something about what is the W&OD Trail?
The W&OD has become an international celebrity. It is a recreation trail for bikers, hikers, walkers, and I think for horseback riders, not in Falls Church, but out in Loudon. It begins in Alexandria and it ends in Purcellville, 45 miles. It is paved all of that way, and alongside of it, there's 35 miles of hiking and biking trail, but mostly for the horseback riders. And it's used. Someday it will have to be paved to ease the use of the paved trail.
Okay. Well, no matter what you're going to respond to this, you are the founder of the W&OD Trail, no matter how much you're going to say to deny that. But you are, and I know you are, the founder of the W&OD Trail. Tell us a little bit about your involvement here.
Years ago, a man by the name of Lane owned the W&OD Trail. In 1958, we learned that they were going to stop the tracking. The heavy users, which were bulk users, seed, feed, stone, all of that kind of a thing, cement, unveiled them to continue. They did so into the 60s. At that time, I was talking with Mr. Lane about acquiring part of this site. We wanted him to give it to us, but of course he couldn't do that.
Now, who's us?
A man by the name of Lane.
No, I know who's us. Give to who?
Oh, me.
Oh, to you.
Actually, we were trying, how we got into it, really, we were trying to buy where the section is that's now Fairfax Drive and Glebe Road, where they had a train stop and a repair station and that kind of thing. And that got led into it. We brought the power company in on conversations and visits, the VDOT and so on into it, but not alone. We did this in the city of Falls Church when Harry Wells was the clerk.
Great man.
And also became the city manager. But we couldn't get him to give it to us. We went to power company and that sort of thing. But what happened really was the action taken by then Vice Mayor Lee Rhodes, who also helped with downstate. We had to go and get an act passed. He helped get it done. And that's why this is named the Lee Rhodes section. And the only one that's named after anybody on this trail.
Sign right up there.
Yeah. What happened was that then we had to raise the money, and we did by going to Congress for money. And we received $600,000 from them as part of the dollars to get it. The rest of it was raised by state funding, by bonds from Arlington County, City of Falls Church general funds, from Loudoun County bond funds, from Fairfax City bond funds, and from Fairfax County bond funds, but Alexandria also general funds. And those were the funds used, $3.5 million to buy it. We did it in sections as we could pay for it. And we raised that money over about 6 or 8 years just to buy it. The rest of the development all came from general funds, from the political subdivisions, Falls Church and Alexandria, and the rest bond funds. So we've had to go for bonds. And part of that, the development all came from at least 7 bond funds over a number of years in order to develop.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Mess. This bike trail is so used. You were quoting a number of, at places, 1,000 people per hour on certain days during the weekends. And 12,000 have been counted at one point up, throughout one day, just using it. It is so popular. I mean, it is so popular throughout the area. It's constantly being used. But what really interests me is, what is it that a person does that here you are, you're out earning a living, you have a family, a large family that you're raising, doing all this and doing all that, and you put aside a large chunk of your time to do something for the public good. What motivated you?
I have been very fortunate and lucky. And what has motivated me is to have to give something back. I got this from my father, who was a doctor, and he gave a lot. But what I'm saying is that this was an idea that was born when I was in California, getting ready to take a ship out of San Diego over to the Far East. They have regional system there, but it was free. We couldn't do that. We got the act passed. We got the Northern Virginia Planning District Commission Act passed, and in it a clause or a phrase that said there would be regional parks. And from that, we got an act passed and got our own authority done. But believe me, the mayors of all of those political subdivisions, 3 from the beginning, Fairfax, Arlington, and Falls Church, those went down with us and pleaded our cause in the state legislature and got the act passed. We then used that very same group of people to get the WNOD. The problem was that the highway department and the power company had control. Highway department had to buy it in order to, they were already trespassing, thousands of ways. We got that done. Then we had to go to the power company to get them to do it. So what happened is we arranged the purchase by VDOT, we arranged the acquisition by the power company, and then we arranged the acquisition from the power company to the Park Authority on a contract basis. Now all of this took years. It didn't happen overnight. So that what happened was, how do we pay for it? And they agreed to let us do it over a period of time. So we bought section by section by section.
Now, wasn't the first section here in Falls Church? Somebody told me that?
The first section was here, and in order to have that done, we had to get permission of Falls Church to let us pave this trail here. So we paved a mile in Falls Church.
Well, you know...
And then the answer to it was that we then proved that we could do it, and that got us through the state legislature, believe it or not.
Good for you. Well, you know, I've walked this so many times and ridden my bike so many times. And I think most people, you see them going by here as we're filming, see all these little parts of the trail, let's just say in Falls Church, and not many people know how much effort for every bit of every sign, every like we have the Veterans Common. When you enter Falls Church, you see the Veterans Common. Tell me a word or two about what is that?
A gentleman who is a veteran had the idea, and he asked us if we would let them do it.
You're talking about the Veterans Common, right?
Yes. They then proceeded to bring together the VFW, almost all of the veterans organizations, including those for the women. And they have had 31 or 32 observances here.
Oh.
And if you would come up, the political people from Arlington County and from Fairfax and from the city of Falls Church observe. They come to these affairs.
Right.
The TV stations have also come and
Right.
filmed them and put them on, particularly Channel 7. The thing about it is that it gets the attention of the young people, and it is a very fine memory to the veterans who have passed.
And very visible. I mean, 2 million people see it every year, right?
Actually, I think it may be more than that.
Okay.
But what I'm really pleased about is that the ladies' organizations have also
Sure.
adopted it. I mean,
That's
they
great.
keep the flowers and the rest of it on. But the funny thing, do you know where the flowers come from?
Of course not.
From the churches.
Oh, that's great. Okay, that's good.
When they finish them up with the
okay,
church, they
that's
wind up
appropriate.
here.
That's appropriate.
They
Good.
come here.
That's appropriate. Now, about a number of years ago, my daughter was 7 years old and went up and testified before City Council at the request of a man named Craig Day,
Yeah.
and said, you know, we have to have a bridge over Broad Street.
Yeah.
And that night they passed it. And I know you've worked hard, and you and Barry Bushell worked hard on that. And we now have a beautiful bridge over Broad Street, thanks to you and Barry Bushell and Craig Day and the whole Northern Virginia Regional Park Authority. And I want to say thank you. That is, I think, the best thing we have in Falls Church right now. And maybe one day everybody can come see you at the bridge. Thank you
Thank
for
you very
everything
much.
you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I heard music everywhere in town. A lot of folks had pianos and other instruments in their homes, and I could just walk up and down the street and hear people playing pianos and violins and singing. Some fellows were always sitting on the front steps of the stores down by the crossroads playing harmonica. Of course, there was music at church on Sundays and Wednesdays. A band always played at town picnics. One of my favorite things was dances at the Oddfellows Hall.
All right, let's hear it. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. There really is music everywhere, particularly in Falls Church today. We're here with Mike Marr. How are you? Good to see you.
Great, Jim.
It's finally fortunate we get to hear a jazz musician and a musician from a very, very talented family. Mike's dad is a resident of Falls Church and is a popular musician in nightclubs. Mike's brother was with the Army band as a musician. Is your sister a musician?
Well, there was 5 kids in the family, and the 2 boys wound up having music as their profession. The 3 girls all took music lessons and then gave them up after about 3 years.
Decided they want to make money.
Yeah.
Right. It is fortunate. I really, really love your music. What are you doing right now? Talk to us about it.
Well, I do all sorts of things. It's not easy for a freelancer to keep his financial boat afloat. But what you need to do is diversify. So I do a lot of teaching, and of course I do a lot of different types of jobs, which we call gigs.
Right.
Everything from playing on the Millennium Stage at the Kennedy Center. I've been there with classical violinist for several appearances. I've also been there with my own jazz quartet. I played at the Corcoran Jazz Series.
And I know you're teaching. You're giving a course right now at the community center?
That's right. It's called Music, Magic, and You.
Right.
And I put in a plug for anybody who might want to sign up the next time it's offered. And it's where it's kind of like a music appreciation class, although it's not from a historical perspective. I look at what makes up music, the kind of the physical elements of music, how instruments work, how is music written down, kind of a general intro for everybody who has always wanted to know just a little bit more about music, but it's always been afraid to ask.
Yeah. I have a lot of questions, but let's hear something else.
You don't mind if I play something I wrote?
Oh, I'd prefer it.
Okay. This is called Melancholia.
All right. I love it. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mike, I know you've done a lot of things in the city and for the city. I hope you'll help me out here. I know you performed at the New Year's Eve Festival on the Millennium.
Well, not on the Millennium, but the year before that,
okay.
I did have a quartet, and we were originally scheduled to play in the State Theater.
Oh, yeah.
But the State Theater wasn't quite ready at that point, so we were moved to an outdoor stage. And I had to break the news very easily to the sidemen that we were going to be playing outdoors on
I remember
the first of the year.
I think it was about 4 degrees that night.
It was about 16.
It
was very cold, very cold.
It was wild.
And I remember being out there, and unfortunately we only had to play 20-minute sets, and we could go inside and get ourselves warm.
Yeah.
But I felt pretty good when we first started off, but by about 15 minutes into it, my fingers were could barely move because of the cold.
Let's go on. I know you've done the home concert series.
Several of the home concerts.
With the Virginia group. I know you've done, what else with the city? You're doing the teaching.
I'm doing the teaching at the community center, and I've also recently had a jazz trio down at the Broad Street Grill.
Oh yeah.
And
you know, it really is amazing. I'm a Washingtonian, and just to see the changes in this area, I think it's just so dramatic. I mean, the number of decent restaurants and performing places is just wonderful. Tell us about what's going on at. Aren't you teaching at Suitland? also?
Yes, I teach down at the Suitland High School. They have a visual and performing arts program, which is a magnet school in the Prince George's County. So I teach piano lessons down there. I teach a piano performance class. Also do a lot of accompanying with the choirs. As a matter of fact, we have a concert coming up at the Maryland State House this coming Monday, so I'll be down there for that. The group travels a fair amount to do concerts and recitals.
I must say this because it's very interesting. People involved in music really literally have to work 3, 4, and 5 jobs, sometimes 50, 60 hours. Ideally, you got to really love it to make money at it, and I know you.
Amen to that, Jim.
Let's hear something else. We only have a couple minutes.
Okay. I do a kind of a practice routine I have, which I call the key of the day. And as you probably know, and maybe the listeners don't, but there's basically 12 notes in music. So every day I focus on a new tone and try to play most of my repertoire in that key. So what I do is I have tunes that I've picked out, and I just would play it in that key. But here's a tune I've been working on. It's called "You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To."
It's an honor to know you.
Thank you, Jim. My pleasure to be here today.
There really, really is a lot of music in Falls Church City and everywhere else.
Sometimes I would walk to and from the village along the roads, but I loved to walk the trails and alleys behind houses, through fields and woods. It just seemed more special.
After crossing the bridge, we walk between the forsythia and the white pine out into an open area with swings and a slide where you'll find kids a lot playing, and walk onto the newly formed bower of the red maple and the willow oak that we planted in '92. Down along the base of West Westmoreland Road. Makes for a wonderful walk home. Well, as we come to the end of West Westmoreland Road, we have a choice to make. We can cross another bridge across Tripp's Run, or we can go straight down what some people call the path to nowhere. Let's take this short path and just see where it goes. Well, this short and winding trail that's a part of Cavalier Trail Park, it's made of tree bark mulch and needs some more mulch right now. But it winds back and forth just like a stream. And in fact, the stream is on your right. You can look through the tulip trees and sycamore trees and mimosas and see the stream to your right. Well, this section of the trail was outlined by logs, rotting logs of trees that were cut down in this area for a variety of reasons. It gives an old rustic, woodsy look to it. As we leave the trail right here, I want you to look at the Dawn Redwood. The trail is named after this. It's the Redwood Trail, but this Dawn Redwood is a baby that comes from a cone from the first Dawn Redwood that was planted in the United States. I believe the date was somewhere around 1941, give or take a couple years. This tree here, this Dawn Redwood, is baby Dawn Redwood, is the baby of the first Dawn Redwood that was planted in the United States. Up until as either the late 30s or early 40s, the botanists did not know that this tree still existed. They thought it was a fossil tree that had been gone for, I think, thousands if not millions of years. And so then when over in China in the early 40s, late 30s, early 40s, when Chiang Kai-shek was chasing Mao Zedong across the mountains, and militarily, the Americans were advising Chiang Kai-shek's troops, and they sent along scientists to explore the hinterlands of China because they'd never been back there. And the botanists discovered this tree thinking this was extinct for many thousands or millions of years. And it's a redwood, and they called it the Dawn Redwood, like from the dawn of time. And so he sent back seeds, brought them back with him, and planted one in his backyard, and then planted a couple more over in the National Arboretum after that. So the Dawn Redwood that was planted here in the United States a couple years ago was struck by lightning. It's still alive, but it's not in the kind of condition it was in before. And so the owner of the tree collected the cones and planted them, and then as it started growing, gave us this tree to plant here in Cavalier Trail Park along this trail. So we've called this Redwood Trail. And this trail ends right up here by the loblolly and the dead willows and the living loblolly pines. The land up ahead was sold for a few dollars by the city a number of years ago to the residents, and the stream was paved over and put in a pipe underground. And there used to be a trail that went all the way through to TJ School. Maybe one day we'll have that again. Right now we have a trail that just ends. Returning back from the trail to nowhere, let's go back to where they split and go across the Westmoreland Street Bridge. The street was originally supposed to cross here, but they ran out of money, and when all the residents said they didn't want the road to go across here, the city acquiesced, and we have a wonderful park now as a result of that. And as you look across, you can see where the stream had been paved, but now it's being returned to its very slowly to a natural state with trees falling across it just like streams should have. Well, after you cross Westmoreland Bridge, we can turn left back into the park, down a trail that's made of bark mulch, and we call this Persimmon Loop Trail. This was just built a few years ago. Looks like we need to put a little more mulch down here. But 11 persimmon trees were planted, a grove of persimmon trees. They're very young right now, but in a few years, these are American persimmon. These are the native American persimmon trees, and we'll have some very nice persimmons. We have, of course, many other kinds of trees down this trail. We have tupelo and river birch and hop hornbeam and sassafras, among some shrubs and a whole variety of plants that are very interesting. But the persimmons will be a dominant, the persimmon grove will be a dominant tree here in about 5 years as these grow. Here's one of the 11 baby persimmon trees we planted 2 years ago in this area. And these used to be flourishing in the area up to probably World War II. And now there's only a couple areas around town where you can still see them. And so we wanted to plant a grove of them here so they would remain in perpetuity and people could see what the old American persimmon trees are like. Another tree that used to be common in Falls Church that's in this park is the sassafras with its familiar glove-like leaf. There's 3 kinds of leaves on the sassafras. One looks like a glove with 2 thumbs, one has no thumbs, and here's one with a single thumb. So there's 3 kinds of leaves on the sassafras and making the famous sassafras tea. But we're planting some of these so people can see what trees used to grow around here before it was all developed. And we also have a few of the pawpaws we talked about in the last show down here, down at Persimmon Loop Trail. At the turn in the loop of Persimmon Loop Trail, it's a beautiful specimen of a young American ironwood, or smooth-barked ironwood, it's also called, and as opposed to the rough-barked ironwood. And this has a very smooth bark, but it's rippling like mussels. And it's a gorgeous tree, and we planted this in 1992, and it marks the turning point of the trail. We have a number of ironwoods down here. Like the rough-barked ironwood, the trunk of a mature ironwood, a smooth-barked ironwood, is so dense that it sinks in water. But that's of a mature tree. This one has a ways to go. Okay, this land was essentially given up by the city to some 6 local residents to extend their backyards for lawn, and the stream was piped. And this used to be a beautiful trail through here, and everybody used to walk to TJ, and you can see they're just mowing their lawns now back there over the stream, and we've lost that portion of the stream and that trail for the immediate future. Unfortunately, the pipes are now a rat haven, and if you come at dusk, you can see them running out of there. This connects to the pipes on the other side of Chereau by TJ. This is an example of a persimmon tree that's about 20 years old, and it's in Cavalier Trail Park, and you can see it has the beginning of that deeply furrowed bark. As the tree gets older and older, the furrows get deeper and the segments thicker. The tree is about 30 feet tall right now, and it does not. Persimmons never get a very thick trunk. They only get about a foot thick.
One of the most interesting things to me is that right in the middle of Falls Church, right in the middle of one of the fastest urbanizing areas anywhere, we have magnificent old houses and trees, beautiful music still in homes and on the streets, marvelous places to gather, and trails to return home on. It makes me wonder why these wonderful qualities of village life remain here in Falls Church.